Cover Slaves, show we play Adeptus Titanicus and no other games exist. Except for 30K when we get back to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing something interesting today. Both Clarence and myself have a 1,300 point battle group, which is what you call an army in Adeptus Titanicus. But what we're trying to do is both myself and Clarence have an army comprised of like what's in the starter set, the new one.
Yeah.
So what that means in practice is I've got 2 Reavers, 2 Warhounds, and 2 Lancers, which is exactly what comes in the box. So does Cleary. We've changed it up a little bit. I have a different mana pool. He has a different mana pool. Ferox for him, Axiom for me. We also chose different stratagems and stuff, and we'll get into that. But yeah, so anyway, we're doing 1,300 points. It's about, what, 1,000 points stock without weapons, right? It's about 1,030?
Man, something like that. It's like 40.
So, bottom line is it's enough in the starter box to start an army. The only thing you're missing, I'll try and do this without flipping anything, is you got to get the command cards, which you may or may not see. These are $30 for a pack of 5.
And like, yeah, it does come with like the thin ones, but like, you'll discover really fast you want the tokens to stick in. It either magnetize the thin ones.
The little pips you get in the starter set, they actually don't fit the paper ones that come in the starter set, so that's the only downside. But if you're going to wait, what we found out is you can get a dart board or a cork board and just use the push pins. The good thing about that is you really don't want these pips to move. We've dropped a few dice, and if it only moves 1 pip, you're okay, but if it moves all of them, like you're kind of scrambled, so might want to consider that. But yeah, we'll come back, we'll talk about terrain. We're also doing what's called the Engine War scenario. Yeah. It's a scenario that me and Cleary kind of came up with, and it's just a really baseline match play scenario for people who want to get into the game and just kind of want to hit the ground running. When you're playing 18 normally, it's very historical, like 30K, and that's good and bad. That's good if you're into it, but it's bad if you don't have the forces you need for the scenario you're playing.
The match play rules are a little...
for AT, they're not great.
Yeah, for AT, it's like... You're never playing the same mission.
Right, yeah.
You're never playing the same mission twice. Like, you and your opponent playing different missions, and then the next game it'll be different. Yeah. And the next game it'll be different.
There's a chance you could roll the same one, but, like, it's not very interactive, and then... To make it more confusing for new players, some of the stratagems you can take are like extra side missions.
Yeah.
And that's super annoying because Buddy could like kill a warlord. When your Titans go, oh, by the way, I have this stratagem. I just scored extra for doing that. You had no idea they had it. You had no idea of preventing it. So we're bringing the game back a bit more to the core of what's going on. Yeah. But yeah, when we come back, we'll talk about our armies. We'll talk about stratagems and the terrain and everything.
This is our terrain discussion. And as we are using kind of our own scenario, it does have some of our own
terrain rules.
Start
us off with the most important one, Claire.
So in the core rules, there's a mechanic for stepping over terrain. It's
part of the blocking terrain.
Yeah, normally. Part of the blocking terrain rules, and it's based on your Titan's size. And we've gotten rid of that. So usually, your Titan can move 6 inches like that, and as part of it. It can move over anything that's half its size.
Right. In this case, 4 inches for this guy?
For this case, it would be 4 inches. A Warhound could go over anything 3 inches.
Warlord 5.
And the Warlord gets very weird because it can only move 4 inches of movement, but it could jump over 5 inches worth of terrain.
And 5 inches can be very high.
It can be quite high. And it really... to us, didn't synergize well with the idea of large lumbering robots being blocked by these very solid impediments, these large solid terrain pieces. Guess what?
Pretty big.
The Reaver would be able to jump right over that though.
Right.
And especially in a game where you kind of clumsily wheel around and have to traverse with these very strict things. It's weird, or they just can kind of hop.
Yeah, exactly. They're hopping over low fences.
Yeah. So we got rid of the scaling mechanic.
Yeah.
If something is blocking and is in your way, you have to go around it.
Where that could get a little confusing is on the short buildings like that warehouse. But those are the rarity. Most of our buildings are, enough to block half a warhound kind of thing.
Now, on this map, we do have a mix of destructible stuff.
Yes. Yeah, let's mention that.
On our map, we do have quite a lot of destructible terrain, and that kind of ties into our modified dangerous terrain mechanic as well. So, the destructible stuff, we have these kind of like flimsy looking ruins scattered throughout the map. There's quite a lot of them. And then also all these small little vehicles. So we have some tankers, we have some
transports,
some
Rhinos,
Space Marine stuff,
dreadnoughts.
Stuff like that. So those are all destructible to some things. So the ruins, for example, are only destructible to Titans. If I wanted to move my, say 8 inches, we'd pull it.
Yeah, just go ahead and pull it.
So we'd pull it.
Yeah, so he smashes right through it.
Yeah, smashes through it, but he has to take a dangerous terrain test, and for us that's a 1 or 2 on your D6.
It takes a leg pip damage.
To the legs. Conversely, though, your knight
has to go around
it because it's simply not big enough to smash through it.
Right.
So the knight would go like that because it can move like that.
We did give knights one cool benefit to being in cover from ruins, however. So I'll use this guy because it actually blocks his hole. Put him on that side.
Okay.
So if the facing from the perspective of the firer totally blocks the knight, right? What that means is the knight will always be able to use its ion save at the fullest ability. But here's the rub. So I'll give you this, Clarence. Now let's say Cleary goes and opens fire on him with that wonderful blast weapon. He will get his ion save. But if Cleary has a second plasma blast gun coming up after, any of the center holes that land touching that ruin will also remove the ruin. So the first go around, Cleary's okay even if the ruin gets removed. But if he fires again, oh boy, Cleary's in the open.
So, a bit of nuance, a little mechanic-y, but there is a lot of game mechanics in the rules.
We should also mention neither the Titans nor the Knights can do CC attacks across these things.
Yeah.
So in this situation, if Cleary's going to go and charge that Lancer, he's got to ram through that ruin. It's really not up to him if he wants to close range.
Yeah, and similarly on the other side, if you have a knight that's cornered itself in one of these large ruins right here to try and get some sort of cover.
Yeah, exactly.
He can't start poking through it with a spear.
Yeah, he's only got that one side he can attack from.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's our complicated ruin rules.
Yep.
These little trucks are very simple. The knight would move through it, do the same dangerous terrain test, and remove it.
Yep.
Like so. The Titans are simply large enough to not care for the trucks, except with these explosive red ones, in which case they would also take the dangerous terrain.
Yeah, so on those ones on a 1 or 2, they might hurt themselves.
If you smash through 3 ruins in a row with your Warhound, you're taking 3 the dangerous terrain tests.
Right, and it's a 1/3 chance of getting hurt, right? So 3 of them, you're probably going to hurt yourself.
So it's pretty simple. We removed a lot of the difficult terrain as we found it didn't really work well as a slowdown mechanic, but it functioned as a secondary form of blocking, really.
Right.
No one ever wanted to go into it, which is similar to how similar rules worked in fantasy back in the day. No one ever even wants to interact with it. They just go around. So to encourage more interaction, we ditched the difficult and introduced our dangerous.
Yeah, we opted instead of slowing you, the choice is hurting yourself or not. And that makes sense. If you're trying to take the direct path like a tank ramming everything out of your way, you're going to mess your legs up eventually.
Yeah, and there's enough terrain that basically dictates path all the game that we didn't need a second form of what boiled down to passable. We
to the point we're making about the areas that slow you down, these big guys here, for example, what we've chosen to do is, in lieu of them slowing you down, if you are in the end phase in any of these big pools with any of your Titans, You take 1 leg pip of damage, just automatic if you're in it. So if you have a big scary warlord, you can afford to sit there for a turn or two where you're trying to get people to not close combat attack you. It might be a variable play, but you can't sit there all game. You don't see it, but we also came up with similar rules for pools of water. They would look the same, just not green, they'd be blue. And conversely, we also came up with tar pits.
Yeah.
Tar pits are the only ones that really slow you. What we did for those, though, is make it more about a chance of keeping you stuck for a turn than really slowing you more than anything. But most of the knights don't care about these, I don't think, because they have that agile special rule. So yeah, they can afford to not have to worry too much. What else can we say, Cleary?
There's not too much, right? We have the blocking. The only things, I guess, would be the cranes. When we play with the cranes, we just kind of swing them out of the way. They don't block the Titan's movement.
So it would start there, but if you move through, it just kind of swings out.
And then other than that, like when we use trees, the trees similar to
the ruins. Yeah.
They don't have quite the defensive capabilities for knights as the trees do, but they are still like in the way until you run them over with Titans.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no. Other than this, it's a very urban board, and our terrain's either blocking or it's destructible and dangerous.
There we go. I guess we call it hazardous, but same difference.
Yeah, it's hazardous, so we can say the knights don't get their agile.
Right, yeah, I guess, yeah. Okay, so we'll be back with our battle groups.
1,300-point battle group. I took them from the Legio Fureans, and it's a traitor force, so it gives you basically different special rules if you're a loyalist or black shield, and Legio Fureans has its own bespoke set of rules. It's not one of the custom ones you can make up. So every battle group's composed of at least 1 mana pool. You have to have a mana pool to play matched. They're basically specific like force org charts that say that have a minimum amount of Titans. You can include additional optional Titans that are also listed. They all have some sort of benefit. So the one I took today was Ferox. I take it quite often. His base is 2 Warhound and 1 Reaver. I added a second Reaver. And what it does is when you're close in, so within the Titan scale, you get +1 against their armor. So when their shields are down, you're attacking their actual hull, you get +1 to your rolls. And then additionally, when you're within...
That's shooting and close combat.
Shooting and close combat.
So
and then when you're
close killers.
Yeah, when you're within 2 inches of them, which is usually melee, when you're defaulted to your weapon skill instead of your ballistic skill, you can still use your ballistic skill. And in most Titans cases, the ballistic skill is high and the weapon skill is kind of low. So the Warhound ballistic skill is a 3, the weapon skill is a 4. So instead of basically being -1 to hit, you can offset that in melee. So yeah, you want to be close, you want to be kind of aggressive, and it suits a lot of Warhound weapons that are short range, and it suits my double melee Reaver as well. And then outside of my mana pool, I also have my 2 Cerastus Knight Lancers.
Yep.
And I guess I have my Princeps Senioris is in this Titan here. He has the trait of Swift Killer, which allows him once per turn or phase.
I think it's before you shoot in the shooting phase or combat phase, right?
But like only once. You don't get to do it every time you go to shoot a weapon. So once you get a free 45-degree pivot.
Which is pretty big.
It's very important, but you are at -1 to be hit.
Right, yeah.
So the actual Titans, what they have is I have a Reaver with a Melta Cannon.
And do the names too.
And a Gatling Blaster and a Turbo Laser. And its name is Metis. My second Reaver has 2 Chain Fists and a Turbo Laser. And its name is Malice.
And he's full of malice, boy.
Yeah, he sure is. I have... the first Reaver also has the Legio Fureans War Gear of the Hunting Aspects.
Right, yeah.
Gives me a bonus or a mitigation on to hit modifiers when they're further than 12 inches away.
Right.
So my first Warhound, it's called Phalus Anima. He has the Vulcan Mega Bolter and a Plasma Blast Gun and the Hunting Aspects as well. And my last Warhound, its name is Pardis, and he too has the same Plasma Blast Gun, Vulcan Mega Bolter, and Hunting Auspex.
And part of this, they're painting very carefully to not piss off the machine spirit. Cause it's an enemy warhound?
Well, so its fluff is that it's a salvaged warhound, and they've kind of not repainted it in full Legio colors because
they don't want to piss him off.
Piss off the machine spirit.
I love that.
And I was planning to incorporate more yellow as the games go by, but unfortunately he dies first every single game. So it's it's
deserved for now.
He just gets wrecked over and over again, and I think it'd be bad luck to push that.
And then last but not least, why don't you go through your Lancers and then your stratagems?
My Cerastus Knights are both in the Lancer configuration because that's what comes in the starter kit, and they're also very useful. The Lance is a good melee weapon, and the shield provides a short-range shooting attack that's pretty decent, and also a bonus to their Ion Shield saves.
They're great all-arounders.
Yeah, very, very good on the field, and also very direct in their use.
Right.
And then I have 2 battlefield assets as part of our stratagem.
Yeah, that ties in again to our scenario. In our scenario, you get 10 stratagem points. Mm-hmm. However, 3 of the 10 must be spent on what's called battlefield assets, so Cleary can go through those.
So I took the command bunker for 1. And this lets me, when I fail a command test, I can
do one
more if it is within 18 inches of the command bunker. Usually it just shuts down the entire command phase.
So it's a great insurance policy.
Yeah, it's a good insurance policy, but it's not full mitigation, right? You get one more go.
But it's a low priority target too, so that's good.
And then my second one is the Titan Hunter Infantry, and I use some Scutari, or Secutari, I guess, called the...
Why don't we show them how they actually work,
so,
replacing? Because that's part of our house rules as well.
Yeah, so usually these can just be placed touching any terrain piece. For us, we decided only
buildings and intact things.
Actual buildings.
So not ruins, but intact buildings.
So they're coming out of that building.
Right, yeah.
Oh, they're coming out of this building.
And we made it, they just basically had a touch. As long as they're touching, they're okay.
Oh, they're coming out of the factory.
Yeah.
And that's because the rules in Titanicus, they're pretty good, but they're a little vague on a lot of the particulars. Yeah. So it's you can put them like that.
And now you can't step on them.
Yeah.
So that was the other reason we made sure they wanted to be on the ground. It's so a Titan can step on them, basically.
Yeah, because unfortunately, again, the rules can be a little wonky. So you have these guys, they look like dudes. They're just some guys out to hunt some Titans. However, the rules for battlefield assets actually make them incredibly resilient. They're very armored, they're very hard to hit, and even if you do get a penetrating hit on them, it's still only a 3+ to kill them. They come back every single turn. They're basically
perennially annoying.
Perennially annoying and a waste of targeting. But on the flip side, Titans landing on battlefield assets, either traversing over them or ending their movement on them, can kill them way easier. So, again, we want them on the floor so you can step on them.
The other cool mechanic, I'll just grab some of mine because I've got some as well. This works really well. So in the strategy phase, me and Clarence, we would alternate placing them. Yeah. But why don't you go ahead and place 2, Cleary, because I'll show them the cool counter. So let's just assume Cleary's gone first.
This isn't made up either. This is actually how it works.
Oh, this is totally how it works, yeah. So Cleary could have put 1 there and then put 1 somewhere else, wherever.
So I'll put 1 there and put 1 here.
Okay. So when it comes time around for me to activate, I can do the same, right? I can just place them appropriately where I think they're good to be to shoot stuff. But there's a great inbuilt mechanic where I can scoop 1-to-1. So I can sacrifice this one to scoop Cleary's, and the fluff is basically they're too concerned fighting each other to target a Titan. So for example, what I just did there was totally legal, and then I could just place, say, this one over here, or conversely, I can go, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna use this 1-2 to scoop Cleary's. And the nice balancer there is if we both have a lot of these in our list, they kind of get to fight each other in a way, and you can use it to just mitigate a lot of the back end activation in the combat phase.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So basically, to get back to what they actually do is every turn you put down 2. They have to be touching our terrain pieces like we covered. And then in the combat phase, they activate each individually, and they do like a bunch of medium-ish strength shots at whatever you want. And usually they can be used to strip shields.
Yes.
Or do like chip damage on Titans that are wounded or lighter ones. And then at the end of the phase, they're removed.
Right.
But they get applied every single turn, so they're always a nuisance. And sometimes we've had them kill warlords, we've had them kill warhounds, we've had them kill Titans. They're really annoying.
Just as an example to your point, assuming as an example I had a Titan here. Let's say Clarence were to place one conveniently coming out of that building. He can now probably get a rear shot. And that's not only a shot on my rear armor, it's within my shields.
Yeah.
So I could be at full shields, and these little guys sneak up behind me and shoot me in the bum. So pretty cool.
Yeah, so that is the point of taking the Titan Hunter Infantry for us and how they interact on our board and with each other. And that is my 1,300 point list and battlefield asset stratagems.
Perfect. We'll be back with mine.
This is my 1,300 point battle group. I'm using the custom Legio rules from the attack or defensive Ryza book. So we'll get right into it. The first trait I chose lets me swap a certain Titan in and out of a maniple. So I took a maniple I normally wouldn't be able to take because it requires a warlord. But because of my trait, I swapped in a Reaver in lieu of that warlord to be able to take it. So my Axiom maniple basically just has one rule. All the Titans, which would be these 4 in the maniple, are basically allowed to fail a command check. Normally, once you fail a command, it shuts down your commands for the rest of the strategy phase. But my special rule is you just get to keep testing. So I think from my understanding, it means that one Titan is done trying to get a rule off, but it doesn't prevent further Titans from getting orders off. So I took that because I'm really bad at getting orders off. So it's good for me. It's not quite as strong as Ferox, but it'll help me out, I think, in the shooting phase and whatnot, or the movement phase. What else can I tell you? We've got my leader, who is in a Titan of Legend. Now, this is also part of our Engine War scenario. I spent 2 of my 10 stratagem points to take him and put him in a maniple. And I also had to spend the additional points for the Titan of Legend. He's 25 points more. This Titan of Legend, I've called it Archon, but the actual Titan's name is the Dawn of Enlightenment. And he has this special rule where, in all other respects, his stats are like a Reaver, but he has this piece of war gear. It's more of an ability, and basically it's called Beseech the Emperor. In lieu of shooting in the movement phase, I can forego any shooting, any of that, and just say I'm activating this ability, which counts as an activation. And essentially what happens is if my shields are totally blown out, I can reignite them. If my shields are still up but they're lower, I can refill my shields by D3. So it's very strong to keep me in the fight if I'm going to be taking a lot of shots. And my Princeps Senioris is inside the Titan of Legend in this case. And his Princeps Senioris trait is, let me just check it, Will of Iron. Will of Iron is really cool. Normally when you take your first catastrophic damage, you're probably dead.
You're dead. You are dead.
Right. In this case, no. In my, I roll, what is it here?
A D10.
A D10. And if the second D10 is equal to or lower than that first D10, correct? Then I'm okay?
Yes.
So it's cool.
I think it's equal to or higher.
Equal to or higher, yes. Same difference, I guess. But yeah, if I roll, say, a 5, I have to beat the 5. Or get the 5, right? Let me double check it.
No,
I'll read it aloud.
Yeah.
Will of Iron. The first time a catastrophic damage roll is made for this Princeps Senioris Titan, roll a D10. If the score equals or beats the result of the catastrophic damage roll, it is ignored and has no effect. Okay. So a catastrophic roll could be anywhere from 1 to 10. If I roll a 1 or 2 or 3, I'll probably be okay. If I roll a 9 or a 10, I'll probably be fucked. But in our last game, it kept me alive for 1 extra turn. So why not? Weaponry-wise, we've given him the Chain Fist. Kind of a cool weapon. An extra attack compared to the Power Fist. A bit easier to hit, too. I've also given him the Melta Cannon on the other arm. And then up top, he's got the Apocalypse Missile Launchers.
Moving down, we have another Reaver. This guy has a laser blaster, a volcano cannon, and apocalypse up top. Moving down, we've got first Warhound. He has a Vulcan Mega Bolter plasma blast gun, and I've put an upgrade, a war gear upgrade on this plasma blast gun. It has what's called macro charges. Normally, this would be a 3-inch blast. With macro charges, it becomes a 5-inch blast. In addition to that, it's also adding +1 strength. So without maximal fire, that's very strong. And the only downside is, I believe, when I take damage on this guy now, it's strength 9 instead of strength 7. And I don't think we remembered that last game.
Probably not.
So I'll make sure to remember that this game. Next up, we have my last Warhound. He's armed the same. I just alternated the weapon arms so I can remember a bit better. But again, he's got that upgrade on the plasma blast gun, which is macro charges. And last but not least, we have my Knight Lancers. They're armed just like Cleary's, obviously. Naming-wise, as I mentioned, his name is Archon. I'm trying to remember the names for life of me, and they're not easy. So.
I don't remember your guys' names.
Okay, one was Eternum Venator, I believe, which is Eternal Hunter. And this one was Dragonfire, which is Draco Ignis. And this is the guy that's going to fuck me up because I just can't remember for the life of me, so we'll come back. But yeah, that's my 300-point battle group.
How about
I have to go with stratagems. Yes. So I've got some cool physical. I'll just grab my Titan Hunters. So just like we were talking about, I've got a unit of Titan Hunters like Cleary. This is just a reminder, I have a stratagem called Strafing Run. Basically, it's the equivalent of a fighter bomber flying across the board and unloading all of its ordnance. So I just use that to remind me. And last but not least, this is interesting. This is also part of our engine war scenario. Now, normally, these assets are like little bunkers. So normally, this macro cannon would look like that. It can shoot, but it can't move. In our scenario, if you spend one more additional stratagem point, you can upgrade one of these bunkers to be mobile. So in this case, that's what I've done. So it's a mobile macro cannon. Basically, same resiliency, but I get a 5-inch turn before I shoot. Move, sorry. And that might take me in or out of LOS. Sometimes when you get the really short deployment edges, you don't have a lot of range all game because it's only 24-inch guns. So at least with this, I can move a little bit. What else can I say? One of my stratagems is kind of a secret because some of them you have to keep.
So is mine, yeah.
The wraps like Cleary's. But yeah, the rest of the points are all out in the open. You can see the addition of them. What else can I say? Anything I'm forgetting, Cleary?
No, I think that covers your battle group quite well.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna place objectives. The game scenario is 3 to 5. We don't know how many it'll be. And then we'll roll off for deployment, size, all that, and we'll come back.
End of our deployment, the first thing we'll go over is actually the amount of objectives. So we got 4 objectives, deployed them. So starting actually in this corner, there's that one, there's one here, and one there. You'll notice 2 of the objectives had markers on them. That's because as part of our scenario, we have vital objectives, which are worth 1 more VP each. Either one of us can claim it. Obviously, you're kind of incentivized to put yours where you think you might be going, but you don't know because you put your objectives before you determine deployment. And then onto that, we rolled our mid deployment, which is basically a box in the middle.
It's like a 1 foot by 2 foot box
so
in the middle.
It's 1 foot deep by 2 feet wide, more or less. And so unlike some of the normal deployment options, you get kind of more of a push into the board.
Yeah, you can go real deep if you want. Like I went all the 12.
But it's still you still kind of get clumped.
Yeah.
And of course, terrain blocks your deployment options, movement in some cases. So that's what we rolled. I believe I picked the side, so I chose this side that has the side with far less objectives. And then proceeded with normal alternating deployments, starting with all of our strategic assets that start the game on the board.
So I put mine, my tank there, and Cleary put...
I put my command bunker right here.
There we go.
And then after that was done, we went back and forth with our various units until we were finished. And then...
so we'll go through what you have where...
Okay, so I have Phalos Anima on my left-hand side, kind of prepared to go up a flank. I have Malice front and center, because, since I've pigeonholed him with his war gear, he's got to...
Close combat.
Very direct. I have Midas on the side, and he's, a mid-range Titan, but you don't want to get shot by volcano cannons and other stuff when you don't have to. I have my Lancers kind of on the back and side because there's a lot of...
maneuverability.
Yeah, and then I have Pardis kind of in the middle because there is objectives close to me.
And you have no reserves or outflankers?
Nope. And none of that, which is, again, one of our kind of
special
rules that we will not be covering today.
Cool.
My Legio, I've gone with iron spiders. They don't have a paint scheme, but they do have fluff. So
sure they do. It's green.
Yeah, it's green now. So right off the bat, we've got my Titan of Legend out front here. He's basically right at the edge of that 12 inches. He's kind of moved up the center. Right next to him is his fire support Reaver, who's kind of taking a little bit of cover, a bit off to the side. Back behind this big butte, I've got my Warhound here, flanked by my Lancers. So they're obviously going to move up this left flank around the butte. Hopefully not get stuck in any poisonous stuff. And then over here, I've got my other Warhound, likely kind of flanking off to the right here. I checked and I don't fit here. C'est la vie. So limited options there. But we'll see what happens. I won the roll-off for the first activation, so I've got my Opus Mechanicus here. This just indicates who has the first activation, then you alternate every turn. So all that means is that once we get going, I'll start, at least for the first round, each phase, and then we check every phase to see who's the first player.
Every turn.
So we'll be back, I guess, sort of in the strategy phase as we're doing shit. You'll see how we play it. There are 5 phases. The end phase is sort of short, but you've got the strategy phase.
The sub-strategy phase.
The sub-strategy phase. The strategy phase is broken into 2 parts. The first part is where you fire your assets and use some stratagems. The second part is where you do what's called your order dice. This is where you issue commands to your Titans to do special stuff, and if it goes off, you actually leave it on the Titan's command thing to show what's going on. So there's that phase. There's the movement phase. You actually do see some shooting sometimes in the movement phase, and it's directly related to the orders. You can actually do an order called First Fire. So like in lieu of moving, you can fire one of your weapons early on. So you might see that happen. After the movement phase comes the repair phase. The repair phase is pretty quick. Me and my opponent, in this case Cleary, we just go back and forth repairing each Titan in turn. You roll dice, you apply the dice to what you want to fix. Pretty quick. After repair phase comes, I guess, the most important phase, which is the combat phase. This is where you see the bulk of the shooting and also some close combat happening as well. And then finally, after the combat phase, you get the end phase. The end phase for us is pretty quick. Most of the time, we're just picking up counters like those Titan Hunter Infantry we showed you earlier, or checking to see if a Titan is stuck in a giant puddle of goo and is going to melt his legs off. There are some things you also have to check in the repair phase, like if your reactor's going crazy, or sometimes that's the end phase, I think, right, Cleary?
Depends. There's reactor leaks. Some of the critical damage happens at the end phase.
Yeah, so it's both, then, yeah.
While your reactor heat level gets tested in the damage control phase, which we just call the repair phase.
Right,
it's short.
Damage control phase. And then, so once the Titans start taking critical damage, there may be stuff in the end phase we'll check, just so we can show them the command dials. These are where you put your criticals once you start taking them, and there's literally subsystem damage to each part, like the body, the heads, the legs. That'll tell you what you have to do or what it disallows. Sometimes it won't let you use like your shields or whatever because they're burnt out. What else can I say?
That's pretty much it.
Pretty much it, yeah. So we'll be back with strategy/orders. So here we are at the strategy phase. Nothing has happened since we left you. It's just we switched over to me because it's top of my turn or strategy phase. So I have decisions to make. I could play some of these stratagems I have over here. Good example would be this strafing run or these Titanic infantry. Or I could move and shoot with this mobile macro cannon battery. I'm actually going to elect to place my Titanic infantry. So, just to show you, looking at Cleary's line, I definitely want to get close, hopefully within shield range. So my first Titanic infantry are going to go right here in Cleary's back armor there, and my second Titanic infantry are going to go right there. Alright, so that's my activation. It's now back over to Cleary. So Cleary, what do you want to do?
So I'm going to use one of my Quake bombardments.
Okay.
So this is one. It's a big one. It's one we've never tried out. We're kind of
sweet. So you need the scatter.
Stress testing,
right.
And the D10.
The D10. Okay, you're cool with using mine.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is kind of a stress test and an annoyance factor.
Yeah.
So if you could place it over your. Yeah, like that.
Which guy's the primary?
We'll do it like kind of on the shoulder, so it's
the
like,
shoulder.
Yeah, exactly, something like that.
Okay, so it's going on his shoulder right there.
Yeah. So we'll
and then here's your dice, sir. I know it's not easy rolling and shooting there.
Here,
you know what? Here, hand it off to me.
Yeah,
it's okay. We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
Live PD. Live back on air.
Live PD back on the air.
Yeah.
All right. So
here we go.
You can see why these battle reports aren't easy for us to shoot.
Yeah. So I place it here. As the rule is, you scatter it, and because it's a blast, it always scatters even without the hit. So it goes 6 inches that away. So
cool.
Let's measure that stuff out.
So it might still hit the base there.
Yeah.
So that's the angle. It's going 6. But just misses.
So sadly, nothing.
Okay.
So it's pretty simple like that.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
And that was a one use only, or once a turn?
Happens every turn.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what's that called?
The Quake barrage.
And how's that different from the normal one?
Well, it knocks your shit around if it hits it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so back to me.
Yeah.
There's the old Passero there. All right, I'm going to activate Strafing Run.
Okay.
So I'll just show you the model because it's cool.
It is cool.
Basically, I want you to envision that fighter bomber flying from one edge of the board all the way to the other edge of the board. Now, in Cleary's case, he's deployed smartly. So the line that I'm doing is only 4 inches wide. But anything within that 4 inches is going to get hit. So I'm going to line it up in such a way where, although I don't want to hit my own dudes, so I'll shoot just enough outside.
Can't even hurt them.
Oh, you can't hurt them? Well, there we go. That makes it easy then. So I'm just going to hit those 3 in a row. So, we'll do it live.
Okay. So, kind of.
How it works basically is I'm doing D3 hits per Titan in this case. So right off the bat on Phaelus Anima, that Warhound, I do 1 hit.
Okay, so
Cleary's going to take his 3+ shield save live. Does he make it? No! Okay. So I got 1 pip of shield damage.
So then I go over to my card. Take my shield thing, bump it down to 1. This is a little tricky. It is in the hole now.
Yeah.
And that's how you keep track of your stats. Okay.
Next one. So I'm going on to this is a Malice.
Yeah.
And I'm doing 1 hit on Malice.
Well, you took the dice.
There's your 3+ save. Makes it.
So he's good to go.
And then last but not least, Metis.
Mm-hmm.
How many shots? 2 saves on Metis.
All right. So
there's 2 dice for you. Makes it both.
All right. So that was the strafing run.
Yep. So back to Cleary.
Yeah, all right. So now I'll use the bombardment again.
Oh, you have it twice, you bastard.
Okay. So same thing.
Okay.
Exact same target.
Exact same target, shoulder and all.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna snooch around because it's always more useful to roll your scatter dice as close as you can. It goes 5 inches that away. Okay. So that's a miss.
That's a miss.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
If it was a couple inches.
Wide,
yeah. All right. Back to Ben.
Scary. Okay. I only have 1 stratagem left, which is like the tank. So I'm gonna move him 5 inches and then fire.
Cool.
And this is neat. This is the first time we've ever gotten to use the mobile asset thing we came up with. So
just kind of seeing like where I can go. Gonna drive around this truck while still kind of being along the road. So I'm just going like down a bit, I think. And then turn. Actually, you know what? I got a line of shot up actually. So you know what? He's gonna go to the right of this guy, and he's gonna end up just there. So he's gonna go like, and then point that ways. All right, now I'm gonna try and fire at that Reaver right there, which helped me out as Metis.
Yeah.
And I only got 24 inches. Now, I'm only allowed to do this after I've declared my target because there's no pre-measuring. Now we just see if I'm in range. And it looks like I'm just in range.
Yep.
But just by about a half a centimeter there. Okay, so I believe it's 2 shots hitting on 5s, Cleary?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you're in half range, it's on 4s, but you're not.
Yeah, so full range, so
Yeah.
that's 5s. So hunting for 5s. 1 hit. Cool.
All right. And that goes on my Sparkly Void Shield.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So 3+ save. Saved it.
Alrighty.
Goody. Back to Cleary, I guess.
All right, so I'll play my 3rd Quake Bombardment.
Yum.
Okay, so we've done this twice already. And
You still haven't even used your Titan Hunters.
Yeah, so we'll get the Large Blast going.
Oh, good. How many points is this?
They're 2 each.
Okay, all right.
But of course, their unreliability is part of it. So it goes 9 inches that away.
So it's probably gone.
Probably gone, though it might angle onto the Warhound.
It's the Warhound. It's 9?
Yeah.
Okay, so make sure that's the line up there.
Yeah.
It was from there?
Yeah. All right, it does
Just
nothing.
misses. Almost all. If the pit landed on there, it would have blown up the ruin.
All right, and then I think Ben may be out of...
I'm out, so it's back to you, Cleary.
Okay, so the Titan Hunter Infantry are being deployed.
I'll hold it now here.
Alrighty.
Back to me. I'll let them see you place them in all their glory. All right. So Cleary's gonna place his Titan Hunters there.
Alrighty, so again, because we've limited it to
Intact buildings, yeah, less
there's only
options.
so many options.
So there's one down there near that looks like a schoolhouse almost.
Yeah. The pandemic, it does not affect the Imperium.
Right.
Command.
Yeah. Exactly. We're immune.
Simply culls the undesirable population, turns them into servitors. So, in fact, school is now out.
There we go. Doubling down.
Yeah.
So those are both likely side, possibly even rear for one of them.
Possibly.
Very cool.
However, actually, I will be snudging them back.
And just because I'm a good sport, you're sure you don't want to remove any of mine, eh? Just because it is an option.
I am sure.
Okay,
that's what I
perfect.
wanna do.
So there they are. Are we on to orders, or is that
I
it?
think it's time for orders. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll pass this back to you then. But it's a very fluid game. It's fun. Give you your nice ruse here. Okay, so orders. I think we just go back and forth, correct, Larry?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually pause just so I can think about what I'm doing. So we didn't bother shooting the order part of the strategy phase just because it's pretty quick. So we'll just give you the Cole's notes. I have a special rule for my mana pull because it's an Axiom battle line mana pull where if I fail orders on my Titans, it means I can still keep making orders, just that one Titan can't receive orders. On Cleary's end, though, that was a little bit different. So why don't you start with your stuff, Cleary?
So I started trying to order full stride on Malice.
Which would let him move twice, correct?
Yes, and make him move in the combat phase as well.
Right.
Failed.
But you have a bunker.
Yeah, so the command bunker allows me to issue one extra order. Like if I fail, I get one more order to go on
It's like an insurance policy.
18. So I ordered Phyllis Anima to full stride. I failed that as well. And so that was the entirety of my orders because once you fail, you're out for good unless you have the Axiom.
On my end, I did fail lots. I my first order went off. I issued what's called split fire to this guy here, Archon. And what split fire lets me do is I can still move in movement phase, but I can split my shots when it comes to the shooting phase. Next up, I tried to issue this Reaver with first fire, which would have let me shoot once in the movement phase, but failed that. Next up, I tried to issue full stride order to this Warhound so I could run around this way, but failed that as well. Next up, I tried to issue full stride to this Warhound, and shocker, failed that. But last and certainly not least, I issued full stride order to those Knight Lancers, and that actually went off. So just to show you our command dials here, I've got a split fire order there for my Reaver, and I've got a full stride order there for my Lancers.
Alright, yeah, so as you can see, the command phase can swiftly go bad when it comes to orders.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, one unlucky roll can screw up an entire plan. And the first turn, it isn't usually so important, but as you get into it, when you get closer, it can be really critical.
It'd also be a good time for us to mention Fox Blackout.
Yeah, so this is kind of a spoiler stratagem.
We've limited it to 2 per side.
Yeah, so usually you can take Fox Blackout, and in the core rules you can stack it.
Overload times.
We've modified stacking stratagems, like you can take it multiple times. And you use it in the stratagem phase, and it shuts it down immediately, removes any orders that are up except for shutdown orders. So basically, if your opponent has a very stratagem phase heavy kind of plan, you can take it and just screw with them. And again, if any orders that are up, you can just simply remove them. You don't suffer any of the negatives or positives anymore.
The downside is you lose your own orders,
Yes.
but using this phase as an example, Cleary got, I think, no orders off.
No
right?
orders.
So, assuming I had gotten all my orders off, Cleary would have been smart to play Vox Blackout in a sense. Possibly, because it would just limit all those orders. It would take them right off the command dials again. So, we wanted to mention it now because it could come up later. We both, I think, have it once. Mm-hmm. Usually you keep these sorts of things a secret. We've been a little more open with each other just to get the game working. But normally we wouldn't know. It would be he might have one, he might not. So we'll be back after the or during the movement phase, I should say.
Mm-hmm. This is the first movement of my turn, and I've decided to activate my knights. I thought it was a good showcase of how the knights kind of move a different way. Usually Titans have a very fixed. They have a front arc, and when you're moving out of your front arc, you lose your movement speed. It gets halved, and you can only turn 90 degrees a set amount of time, up to 90 degrees. So like a warlord can only turn once unless you devote power. Knights can turn as much as you want during your move. So they have a 12-inch move. They're
very fast. Very
so
fast.
I can move like all sorts of ways. I can move him around here like that if I wanted to.
They're the hot rods of the game.
Yeah, they're very fast, very maneuverable. However, you have to be wary because they are quite fragile, even with the reinforced shielding you get from the Lancer chassis. So, for example, if I move him out here, we'd have had a good kind of corridor
line of sight now
to shoot them with all these large strength blasts that cut right through their shields. So I've moved them. I haven't taken full advantage of their speed or their maneuverability, but they are more safe, and it's back to Ben.
Yeah, and we didn't film it, but my first move, I moved my Reaver essentially 9 inches to where it is there. Mm-hmm. I moved up 6, and then I sided a little bit. 3 inches there.
While you do always have to move in your front arc to get your full movement, front you can move diagonally.
Yes, yeah. So that's basically I moved diagonally for the last bit.
Straight. So it's a little
takes some like getting used to.
Visually, from a visual standpoint, you're like very focused on moving forward, then you can kind of just shuffle it up sideways a bit, but it helps smooth over some of the movement restrictions in this game.
So we're gonna go back and forth with our movement. If anything interesting happens, we'll shoot it, but we'll probably be back in the repair phase otherwise. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
All right. So what I'm about to do, I'm choosing my Reaver Titan Malice to move, and I'm choosing to push the reactor to gain a bonus. In the movement phase, you can either do either or both. You can push the speed or the stabilizers. So you have a base speed of 6 inches. And if you want to go faster, you can go up to 9. Same thing for turns. You have base 2, and you can go up to.
So because you're CC, you'd rather move 9 instead of 6, but you're pushing reactors. So here we go.
What you do is you roll this dice.
It's the reactor die.
Yeah.
1 pip.
And that is 1. So my generator takes 1 point of heat. There is other sides. There is a blank. There is
awakened,
and there's 2. Yeah. And the 1 is the most standard for my Legion. The blank counts as the awakened, so I never have a safe hip.
Yeah.
So
you can now move your 9.
Now move 9. So what I'll do is...
You got a 45 turn in front there.
Yeah. So I have the arcometer. These are extremely important.
Yeah.
And what I can do is I can actually sidestep my full 9 inches.
Yeah.
As long as it's in my front arc.
As long as your front arc, yeah.
And boop. And then I will... everything...
Battery's dying there.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
We've wrapped up the movement phase and the damage repair phase as well. And it's kind of where things sit. So last you saw I had moved him 9. And very similarly, basically all my stuff just moved forward.
You did get a cool kill you could talk about.
Yeah, so moving forward, I had Partis back here. And he kind of had to maneuver through, but his movement ended him on one of the Titan Hunter infantry.
And he stopped him.
Yeah, and when that happens, you roll a d6 when you land on something. And if you roll under the Titan's scale, it will kill the battlefield assets. So in this case, the Warhounds are the only ones that can fail when you land on stuff, because they're the only ones that have a scale that fits on a d6, but I rolled a 5 and the Titan Hunters died as a result.
Moved up with him.
Yeah. He moved up, kind of sidled along to get some firing solutions.
And he's still got a Titan Hunter in his rear arc there.
Yeah, he does, but that's thankfully out of shield.
Yes, yeah.
Whatever range.
And then your Lancers on the flank there.
Yeah, as was seen on the initial video.
On my end, my Lancers and Warhound came around. I boosted the reactor to move further with the Warhound and rolled a blank face. So that's very good. So there's sort of left flank there. Reavers, as you know, moved up the center, so I moved up with my leader there and then backed him up with the secondary Reaver. And then on this side, went about 8 inches with this Warhound, and he's got sort of an angle on Cleary. But, last but not least, of course, I moved him there in the phase. So yeah, that was that, and then repair phase.
Yeah, so repair phase, we each had very little to do.
Yep.
I repaired my generator on Malice, and I managed to repair it to full. It's not super hard.
I only had 1 pip of reactor on Archon, and I managed to repair that as well.
Now, unfortunately for me, I also had some shield damage on Phalos Anima here, and I did fail to repair that. Rounds have the fewest amount of repair
Pips.
dice, and you also need a 5 to fix weakened shields, and that didn't happen.
So with that, we move on to the combat phase, which is the real bread and butter. So we'll be back in the combat phase. We'll definitely show you some cool shooting attacks as we go back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're in the combat phase. The only thing that's happened is I split fired with my Reaver at both that Reaver and that Reaver. Cleary was hit with a volcano cannon, or melta cannon, but made both his shield saves.
Yeah.
I only hit with a single missile on, is that Metis?
Yeah.
And he failed his shield save, so I take his shield pip off. And now Cleary is firing back with Metis on the Lancers.
Yeah, so the first thing you got to do is check that arc. I could have
sure.
checked it before I declared my target. I'm just screwing up the roads. Definitely very much in.
Yeah, front
So
arc.
the next thing to do is check the range.
Which, they're pretty healthily in, yep.
Definitely very much in. So we'll take that small blast and we'll place it about there.
Kind of touching both.
Yeah, touching both, and if there's maybe a small scatter, it can overlap. So what do you do now? I go down, I check line of sight. If there's any obstructing stuff in the way, it would modify
I think you're in the open.
Yeah, it's super in the open, unfortunately for you. So I do hit on a 3.
Cool.
Right here.
Hits.
So I hit, and now because of how blasts work,
So it's 3 hits.
it generates 3 hits. The model under it accounts for 2
Because the center blast is on it?
Yeah, and then the other guy is 3. Now, unfortunately for Ben, the strength of these weapons are extremely high.
Oh, this is going to be bad.
And the Cerastus Knights don't have anything that can stand up to a strength 11 weapon.
No save for me.
Yeah, so I get 3 dice, and you roll them one at a time.
Yeah.
And then you compare it to the armor
on the old Cerastus there.
Yeah, so the first one, I rolled a 16. Now, unfortunately, that does a critical hit.
Yep.
And I believe it does 2 and then kills. I think that's the order we're looking for. Actually, we have those right in front.
Yeah, it'll say there. It might say on the back of the card too.
I don't think it does, honestly. Household critical hits. It loses 2 structure points and then a knight is killed. So the first knight instantly dies.
Yep. So this lead guy, who is not my seneschal, is vaporized. And there's 2 more rolls.
There's 2 more rolls.
Hold on, I just gotta put. So this other guy is right. Okay.
So
it happens first. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can lead to some frustration. If you have a badly damaged knight and they roll a critical, it will kill the badly damaged knight off, and then a second knight will just explode as well.
Right. But this one is likely to kill it. So here we go.
So we'll see what the roll is. The next roll is another 5.
So that's another critical. Yeah. So he's pulling it.
So unfortunately, this kind of showcases what happens to knights when they're not used a little, I guess
judiciously.
Yeah, exactly. they can be very vulnerable targets, especially to like high-powered blast weapons.
Conversely, let's say they were behind a ruin.
Yeah.
What would have happened was they would still get fucked up with a critical, but I would have a what's the 3+ save?
Yeah.
So yes, they would die likely, but at least with each one of those dice clears rolling, I have a 3+ save against it. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll save one.
Well, yeah, there's a good chance you'd actually pass a couple. So maybe one would have died.
Yeah.
And also, like, the strength of the knights is more against, like, the small and medium range than the very largest weapons.
Just so no one out there is discouraged, although they're easy to kill, just one of those in combat against a Titan is surprisingly strong.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So if one of those had survived and ended up in combat with that Reaver, it would really be bad for the Reaver. Yes. He probably wouldn't die, but he would get very hurt.
He'd be very hurt, and the Knights, once they're there, are really hard to get rid of.
Yes.
Because their movement allows them to circle around, get in your rear arcs, not be hit, and just keep on doing damage. They can freely target with their melee attacks.
And that's the downside of the blast weapons. Yeah. They're great when they're on their own, but if I'm up at you, you can't shoot your own guy with blast. So
exactly. So again, that is, and then my Meltacan was extremely effective, but because I didn't have any orders like split fire up, the rest of my shots are now wasted.
That's a great point. So only 1/3 of your weaponry fired there.
Yeah. And now it is back to Ben's
Alrighty.
activation.
There is vengeance a-coming.
Okay, so it's my activation in the combat phase. You just saw Cleary blow up my knights. So I'm going to get some revenge. I've activated this Reaver, and he's going to fire all of his weapons into that Reaver there, which is Malice. So I'm going to start with my Apocalypse missile launcher up top here, which is 5 shots. I start with this because his shields are up, right, and I want to strip him. So here we go. I'm looking for 3s. Pretty good, man. Do I get an extra one on the 6s?
No.
No, okay.
That's the much better Acastus.
Right, yeah. So I got 3 hits, not bad. That means Cleary's got 3 saves to make. You can just shoot them, I guess, if you want, from your perspective. They're 3+ saves.
Good.
Makes all 3. So I'm going to go to another weapon. I'm going to fire the one on the right here is a laser blaster. This guy is a little bit higher strength than the Apocalypse, but he's only 3 shots. So, 3 there. So hitting on 3s. Wah, 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 wah.
Shit, you missed with them all.
I missed with them all, so no luck there. And then my last weapon, this one's interesting. This is a volcano cannon. It's a powerful weapon, so I'm actually required to fire up my reactor. So I have to do a reactor roll just to fire it. So I'm going to test that. Hopefully I don't get anything too bad. Yeah!
Nice,
nothing.
nothing.
So blank means no pips, so I didn't boost up my reactor at all. Alright, so here we go. I got to get my scatter die and my blast. It's the 3-inch blast, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Well, you have to roll the hit first.
Got to roll the hit first. That's important too. So it would go there if I miss and scatter, but I might hit. And I do. So it's a direct hit, which means it lands boom. And that actually does 2 hits because the center of the hole is over his base.
All right.
So 2 saves from Cleary. He fails one of them.
All right.
So his shields are going to go down 1 pip. And they're a 4+ or still 3+?
Still a 3-up.
Cool. So that's my Titan's activation. Now it's going to go right back to Cleary. He gets to pick one of his Titans, and we go back and forth. Okay, so not the most eventful combat phase, but Cleary will take it through.
All right. So last we saw was Ben trying to gun down Malice with his Reaver.
Yep.
So I did a couple really boring moves. Now, my Legio has one of its special things is that instead of activating in the first turn's movement or combat phase, I can do nothing and get a reroll for the rest of the game, like 1 in the bank. So that's what I did with these 2 Titans here.
They're just lurking.
Yeah, they basically did nothing. Pardis targeted his Archon, and between the plasma gun that hit once and the Vulcan Mega Bolter, I managed to strip quite a few shields.
Down to my last shield pip.
Yeah. So if I had done one more, his shields would have been wiped out, and then he would have had to do some kind of tough decision making. But fortunately for him, that wasn't the case.
And then your Titan Hunters.
So my Titan Hunters back there opened up on his second Reaver.
In the side there.
In the side, though, the shields are up. And even though they're only hitting on 5s because of the distance, I still managed to generate 4 hits, and he failed 2 of them. So I did do some respectable shield damage to that one as well.
Yeah, so he's got 2 shield pips on him now.
Yeah. And yeah, that was all my combat phase stuff.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of luck. I did a shield strip, I think, at one point, put pip on him, right?
Yes.
And that was mostly it.
Yeah, you have 1 pip on the majority of my Titans. Everyone who's in the
Right.
front line has a pip on them. I did get some really good luck with my saves all throughout this turn.
Yeah, so I've been stripping shields, basically.
Yeah.
We may as well just do the end phase, so I have to scoop my Titan Hunter over there.
Yeah,
And
good
yeah,
job.
thanks. And I'll just scoop Cleary's here. So these, again, get recycled every round and replaced.
Mm-hmm. And then neither of us have suffered critical damage, which is traditionally what else takes place during the end phase. So,
Right, so if we had red pips, we check for those, but we
Yeah.
don't.
And yeah, that's pretty much a full turn of Titanicus. And we start, the second turn starts again with another roll off with the D10s to see who has priority.
Yeah, so why don't we do that live? So we both roll our D10, and whoever gets the highest is going first. I got 10.
I got a 5.
So I keep the opus for now.
Yeah.
So we'll be back. We're going to kind of do abridged turns. The only reason being is if we were to pass the camera back and forth for every activation, we'd be here all night.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to show you abridged turns where things happen. So when shields and stuff and damage starts taking place, that's when you'll see us. So we'll be back probably a little bit into the strategy phase. Okay, so we're done the strategy phase. I strafing runned. I think Cleary made most of his saves.
Yeah.
Anything stand out? Nothing.
Not really. I was pretty lucky once again.
Cleary threw his multiple barrages at me, and very lucky of me, I didn't get hit. He scattered left and right.
I did blow a building up.
Yeah.
A ruin.
You landed right on that ruin and smoked it.
Sadly, the battlefield assets are very resilient.
Very
so all these,
resilient.
Incidental damage things can't really hurt them at all.
No.
So even though you have like these big barrages coming down, you have these strafing runs by like bombers or whatever, like they can't do anything to these infantry or the tank. The tank is obviously visually more resilient.
Yes,
but,
yeah.
The infantry just like shrug it all off.
And speaking of infantry, Cleary placed, he's got a unit of Titan Hunters there.
Yeah.
I got one of mine coming out there on his side, and another one coming out the rear on that warehouse.
Yeah.
Where's the other one, Cleary?
I have one there.
Yeah, there we go.
And then one there.
Yeah, so he's got one on both my Reavers there, and some good options for where to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
I moved a little bit and engaged with my mobile macro cannon battery there at Cleary's Titan, and I hit, but unfortunately Cleary made his saves.
Yeah, again, good saves for me this round. I've been pretty lucky. However, I did still fail my second order.
Yeah, why don't we go through the orders? So what worked for you?
So I cast, I ordered first fire on Metis, which was a success. I then tried to order first fire on Pardis, which failed, but then because of my command bunker, I was able to issue one more, which I ordered charge on Malice, which was a success.
Scary. I had a mixed results. I managed to get split fire off again on Archon. I did also manage to get first fire off on him, second Reaver. I also got first fire off on this Warhound here, but I failed to get split fire off on this Warhound. And as you all know, my knights are in the afterlife. So, interesting orders all around. We're now moving into the movement phase. I've got top of the phase, so we'll be back if there's any interesting shooting, which there certainly will be because we are first firing. We've done the movement phase and the repair phase, so we're just going to kind of go through what happened. I'll let Cleary take over.
Okay, so my movement phase is pretty simple. I ended up moving forward mostly.
Yeah.
I moved forward with Fail Sanima.
Full 8 inches.
Full 8. I moved forward with Partis. Midas first fired and unfortunately missed with his melt-a-gun shot and didn't knock down the shields.
And these guys ran
The
up
Lancers moved 12 to try and be a pest. And this is where things got really complicated. So I had him on charge, and I went to boost his movement because I was going to try for a really janky 9-inch sidle charge in his front arc. I rolled a blank face, which for my Legio
is
means
awakened.
Machine Spirit Awakened. I failed the leadership test of 4, so I rolled a 3. Now, for my Legio, I get to pick what happens on the chart instead of rolling. So I thought, well, since my movement just got shut down regardless, with like the only movement being really random, I will use the opportunity to fire at his Titan with my top lasers. And I got 2 hits.
With draining up too.
Yeah, with the draining. Got 2 hits and he failed 1 and dropped his shields. So that was, while I didn't get to charge and maybe not even make it, I did manage to strip his shields, which was very good for me.
Yes. I had some first fires. I fired first fire with this Warhound. I think I missed you, right? Or did I knock some shields?
You knocked my shields.
Yeah, so I knocked some shields down with a plasma shot first fire. This guy was not as lucky. I think I may have got 1 shield on you.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I got a pip of shields off of Malice. This guy, I don't think I first fired him. I split fired him. Right.
Yeah.
And then this guy as well. So he just moved up. So yeah, a bit of advancing, a bit of split firing and whatnot. The last thing, we had a repair phase.
Yeah.
So the shields Cleary had brought down, I managed to reignite with a lucky roll of 6.
You got 2 6s.
2 6s, in fact. So the shields are up a little bit. There wasn't much else. I am going to do one thing, which I told Cleary about. I have, Loyalists have a ability once per game at the end of the repair phase to take an order that's already been issued and change it. So what I did was I had put a first fire order on this Reaver, and I basically took that and I switched it to split fire. So that means in the coming combat phase, I'll be able to fire at different targets. But yeah, anything else, Cleary?
No, that's about it for the movement and repair phases.
So we're going on to combat. That's for all the marbles. This is our second combat phase, and we'll come back once stuff starts blowing up.
This was a pretty big doozy of a combat phase. We'll just start kind of over here. I shot at his Warhound with Fail Sanima, and I stripped 1 point of shield. Pretty simple. Where it gets a little more complicated, kind of, is I basically spent my entire turn shooting with everything but Metis at his Archon to try and drop its last shield points that he had regained. And I finally did manage to do that, so I was able to open up with Metis and start doing damage. I hit with the Melta Cannon even though it was a 5. I rolled a 10 and an 8 because it was in half range to do like strength 21 and strength like 19, like silly damage. It was on his body,
which caused the critical.
Yeah, he took a lot of hits to the body.
And I got my VSG burnout. My void shield is now never able to come back up again.
And the macro Gatling, or the Gatling blaster, supplemented and blew out his Melta Cannon, I think.
So it's quite damaged.
So yeah, he's currently pretty damaged.
He's on death's door, realistically.
He can be, yeah. If I hit him with more targeted attacks and he doesn't repair it, his criticals, he is close to possibly dying. However, that did take all the firepower of all my Titans and Knight support, and that was my turn of combat.
Me, I engaged split fire on this guy using my one-time only ability. And I shot the Vulcan at Cleary's Lancers, but he actually made his saves. Mm-hmm. And the Plasma Blast Gun, I fucking fired up and shot at Malice, and I did something to him by hitting the body.
Malice is the Reaver on my side that's taking a beating. He's almost as damaged. His Void Shields are gone, his reactor's in yellow, and his body armor's almost stripped completely.
But he has no crits, so he may be able to reignite his shields.
Yeah, for sure. So that is the one positive, but he is eating a lot of firepower right now.
What else can I say? This guy shot at both Metis and Malice. I think I got like one pip maybe on Metis. I can't remember.
Yeah, Metis has been really resilient with his shield saves.
Yeah. Malice took some more damage.
Yeah, but Malice took the beating. However, there was a cheeky Titan Hunter infantry behind him.
Right in his rear.
That
or side.
One hit, and it hit his turbo laser and actually blew it out. So his turbo laser is currently disabled as a result of the Titan Hunter infantry inside his void shield.
Yeah, exactly. I got in the voids.
Yeah, but all the firepower coming from outside has been absorbed.
Yes.
So there's still been no Titan death yet. But
we're getting close.
Yeah, and once Titans start dying, the game swiftly accelerates.
Yes, yeah, it's very top heavy, but it ends quickly.
Yeah, and I guess we can do a maybe live on air.
Turn 3 roll off.
Turn 3 roll off.
Will Cleary finally go first? We'll see. I got a 7.
I got a 10.
Oh, you sir, you have the Opus Titanicus.
Opus Titanicus.
Cleary is finally going first this round.
Yeah.
So we'll be back with our turn 3.
Alright, so we just finished up our movement phase.
And strategy phase.
So what happened was I had the Opus, and immediately I used Vox Blackout to end the strategy phase. So there's no chance of emergency repair or placing annoying Titan Hunters or anything like that.
So neither of us got to place our Titan Hunters.
So no Titan Hunters, no useless barrages.
And this tank didn't get to move.
He didn't get to use his tank. And neither of us got to repair or do anything like that. Right. So in the movement phase, you can see it kind of turn into a bit of an encirclement. I tried to stomp on his tank there.
Got close.
I rolled the 6 though to not roll under the Warhound scale, so it lives. And everything else kind of moved up. I saved my Lancers for last, so I could almost guarantee to get within the 2 inches I need to start doing melee in the combat phase on his Titan. Pretty simple.
I, on this side, came round with the Warhound just to get Phalos Anima in my sights and sort of get near that vital objective. In the middle, both Reavers moved up. This guy sidled a little bit. He was here. He's a bit to the left there. I just backed him up 3 because I knew the Lancers were coming, and at least this way right now, only one of them will be in for combat as opposed to 2. Mm-hmm. So it just means he's shooting as opposed to doing combat. And then last but not least, I backed up this Warhound again because I was worried about the Lancers coming at me. It sort of gave ground to them, but at least now I'm in a better shooting position. So now we're on to the repair phase. Yeah. Which we'll just shoot because it's fast. Sure. So Cleary, go ahead.
Starting with me, I'll start on Metis. So it's comp. Okay, so I got a 5 and 2 4, so that's my shields are back and my turbo laser is fixed.
Sweet. And that was Metis right there, that guy right there. All right, on my end. What?
Holy fuck.
So I'm going to start with my most hurt guy, which is the one who's quickly getting surrounded there. So I've got 3 dice. Yeah. And we'll see what I get. 5, 4, and 2.
So you can do like your shield.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not your shield, your plasma generator or your Melta cannon in hand.
Right, so you can do that and then fix the Melta?
Or,
okay. Yeah, you know what? Let's fix the melta cannon. If I survive, I'm gonna want it. So there we go. I fixed my melta cannon. Back to you, Cleary.
Back to me. So Malice, who's pretty hurt.
He's the guy with shields down.
Shields are still down.
Yeah.
And
can you repair?
I can fix my generator a little.
Cool. So this reactor's a little better.
Yeah.
Back to me. Taking a look here. I'm gonna fix this Reaver here. So that's 3 dice. What do I get? Sorry, stuff in the way here. All right. 655. So
he's
can go right back to where we were. So my shields are back and my reactor is back.
Okay.
Over to you, Cleary.
So on Phalos Anima,
which is this guy right here.
Oh, I reignited my shields. That's
there we go. So his shields are no longer down in my gun sights. Back to me. I'm going to start with my Warhound right here. So that's 2 dice for the Clades. Here we go. I got a cock and nothing. I think that's cock. What do you think? Okay, here we go. 4. Can't do really anything with that. I needed a 5 or better. Back to you, Cleary.
My last thing is Pardus. Yeah, his reactor is back at full.
Nice. And my last thing is my last Warlord or Warhound. And I could, in theory, fix a pip of reactor damage. So here we go. 2 dice. Yeah. So his reactor is back to full. And that is the Howl repair phase, right?
Yep.
Sweet. We'll be back with combat phase.
Okay. So combat phase, I activated my knights first. And they managed to kill his legendary Titan guy. With their melee attacks, even through his Will of Iron Prince of Signor's trait, simply because he was so damaged on that one body part. He then proceeded to Wildfire, do some damage to the legs of Malice with his Melta Cannon, and then topple backwards through the butte.
Yeah, fell onto it.
The rest of the shooting was pretty ineffective on my part. I did a couple of points of shield damage to his Reaver and 1 point or a couple points to his Warlord. Actually, I didn't do any to his Reaver.
Right.
And yeah, that's all my shooting that happened.
I got pretty lucky firing into the Knights with the Vulcan Megabolter and the Plasma Blast Gun.
Plasma Blaster. Yeah.
That's what did the real damage. He saved literally every single one of... I got all 6 with the Vulcan and he saved all 6 of them. Yeah. 3+. So that was pretty cool. Moving down, he put his shots into Malice, I believe.
Yeah.
And still there, so... Down here, my Warhound put everything into Phalos Anima, and I got 2 direct hits on him. I think I dropped his shields again.
Yeah.
But did some leg damage, but he's still good. So it's definitely looking a little bit more in Cleary's favor. We're coming around to, turn 4?
Yeah, turn 4.
All right, so we'll see you in turn 4.
All right, so we're doing this quick because our card's almost full. The game has ended on turn 6. It is in my favor. I have Pardus on this objective for 3. I have Metis on that objective for 3. And Ben is barely on that one for 4.
I got tossed by a Quake shell, but I'm just barely in for 4.
However, I also managed to kill his Prince of Signor's, so that gives me another 2, I think.
Yes.
So I have 1, 8 to 4.
Yeah, 8 victory points to 4 victory points.
Basically, as we noted, once the first Titan started dying, stuff starts dying a lot. So, his Signor's died, and then he killed my knights, and stuff kind of stuck around until I managed to get a pretty sick flank shot from Phalos Anima. Yeah. And it blew through his entire full shield, and then the Plasma Blast gun cored through his entire leg, I think, and knocked him into his Warhound and did some damage over there. And then in retaliation, his rear Warhound finished off Phalos Anima, killed him, and then also killed Malice eventually, causing him to explode 11 inches from his
magazine detonation.
Yeah, the magazine detonation on the turbo laser. That killed the tank that was hanging out.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, so lots of stuff exploded.
We don't have time for a post game, but this is what we managed to play each with 1 box basically from the starter. If you guys want to start Titanicus, do it, man. $153 Canadian plus tax if you get it from a discount retailer. honestly, it's $280 worth of models
Yeah.
for even the GW price of 180.
Yeah, counting the command terminal sprue as well.
Right, yeah. So I mean, you get everything you need to play. We recommend this game highly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And we will be back with 30K.
Definitely that too.
We got Crusade.
Any like weirdo kind of like our scoring system kind of thing that's going to be on our sheet, our mission pack too.
Right.
So other stuff will get explained.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah.
Gods of war, may your hammer be mighty.